Now I'm really keyed up. Go to work, haven't been able to work for a couple of weeks. Read my Bible, I thought, why would I pick that rag up again? It's useless. And standing there in the dark, thinking of the only three options I had, the Spirit just had to have been, prompted me to pick my Bible up one more time, and I did. And I flipped the light on, and I opened my Bible. I don't even know where it was, it doesn't even matter, it's irrelevant. What I do know is this: everything I read skipped my brain completely and went right to my heart. You know what it's like when you're reading the Bible and you try to comprehend what you're reading, and you reread and you reread and you try to digest intellectually the cerebral thing of what it is. And then when you get this sort of a hologram, this shimmering of, I'm getting it, then you try to feed it into your heart and make it work. Well, it wasn't that. It bypassed the mind, hit me in the heart. I started bawling, and I'm not at all an emotional person. It was just such an impactful thing that after about 10 minutes, I thought, okay, I wonder if Satan has something to do with this. And so for the first time in my life, I audibly rebuked Satan. I said, in the name of Jesus, get lost if you have anything to do with this. And it continued. And I read for 2 hours, and everything I read, it was like somebody had been holding me underwater for years, or minutes, or whatever, if we want to go perfectly on the analogy. And just before I'm ready to pass out, just crying for oxygen, somebody lets me up. And I'm getting air for the first time, and it's just like so fulfilling, so unbelievable. It's like being a sponge that hasn't seen water in years, and all of a sudden it's just... And that's what it was like. And I was so high that day, it was called discernment, is what it is. I never experienced it before. And so the next day, I was very tentative about it again, because I was very guarded.
You wondered, will it work again?
Yeah, will it work again? And you know, I opened the Bible, and it skipped my mind again and hit me in the heart. It's like mind melding with God. And from that day on, my life just exploded with relevance. What I've been chasing for my whole life through all these accomplishments was irrelevant anymore. And now all of a sudden I recognize that the void that I've sought so hard to fill is now being filled. And then my life began to change. My pursuit of money, it was so irrelevant compared to this thing that happens in you, this being reborn. I mean, we discussed this several years ago. I remember in your house in Michigan there. You brought it up yourself. You said, I can only imagine what my life would be like if I had not found Jesus.
Right.
You'd have been in Green Bay, Wisconsin. You said this yourself.
Sure.
What would you have been doing? A highlight in your life would have been a six-pack of beer on your worn-out
sure.
easy chair watching the Green Bay Packers. That would have been a highlight.
Yeah.
But you gave yourself over to God. What is your life like now compared to that? I mean, you know, like, you can't even explain it.
That's right.
And I can't even explain my life. But what I do know is money's irrelevant to me anymore. It honestly is. It's like, who cares? Landing the $1 million deal is boring because now I have to do it. Now I have to do the work. Compared to leading one soul to Jesus. That's the ultimate experience, because you realize I don't have the articulation or the ability to turn someone's mind around and say, go after God. But my story, in the hands of the Holy Spirit, impacts, and you look at that and you say, my story? You know, all I did was just find Jesus. And that becomes so exciting that I lay awake at night not thinking about business deals that I want to do or things I want to accomplish. I lay awake at night thinking, that was awesome today, because there's no way I could have met this atheist. God set it up, and to have him go from hardcore, you're wrong and I'm right, to folding in a matter of an hour, folding into saying, you know, I want what you have. Well, I don't know how to explain it. It's just it's the pinnacle accomplishment, if you want to call it accomplishment, because it's not me, it's God. But to realize that even though I'm just this nobody in a back street in British Columbia, I'm just nobody. I don't rate on anybody's social calendar, so to speak. And to think that God says, okay, you know, as rough as you are and as full of inconsistency as you are, I guess we're stuck with you, but we're going to send you on this mission. And then to go on this mission, whether it's a business guy in the day or traveling to some other country to share Christ, and you go on this mission, and you recognize it has nothing to do with my network, nothing to do with me advertising, or because I don't have an agent, I don't have anything. And you realize, how can this be? Just like, how can this be for you? What are you doing overseas speaking to hundreds of thousands of people? That's not Don Schneider. That's something through Don Schneider.
Right.
And so...
I got to hear some of these stories. Herb will be right back in a moment. You've talked about how God has used you. I mean Herb from British Columbia. And you've talked about billionaires. Have you really ever met any of them?
Yes. How do you meet one? See, that's what I'm trying to say before, is it has nothing to do with, I wouldn't get invited to a party because they got to have Herb Larson and his wife there because they're fun. No way.
Okay.
God says, where do we have an agent, and what abilities or talents does someone have that we can use? I mean, that's what gifts are all about. See, like my music and art and all that kind of stuff now is now used to meet people that nobody else can meet.
All right.
So how do you meet a billionaire? Well, it's because I design machinery, and so once in a while, one of them will somehow wind up needing one of my services or whatever.
All right, tell me.
And that's how it works. Well, just for an example, I got a phone call one day from one of Hong Kong's renowned billionaires.
From Hong Kong?
Hong Kong, yeah. So see, this is a different country completely. So what?
But you're in British Columbia.
Right, what are the odds?
Okay.
There are no odds. I mean, roll as many dice as you want, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And so I get this phone call, and this guy wants to meet about doing a joint venture plant in Asia. And of course, when I find out who he is on the phone, it's like, wow, why? For about 2 seconds, and then I realize I know the why, because this happens to me all the time. The why is this man needs to hear about Jesus. So instead of making me fly to Hong Kong, he flies to Vancouver, British Columbia. Now, that's unusual. In his busy schedule, get the peon, or whatever, to fly over there. So he comes to Vancouver. Gets there, and he says, I'm busy, let's meet. I says, where do you want to meet? And he says, well, let's meet at my house. I said, oh, I thought you lived in Hong Kong. He said, well, I do. Got a house here, too. Has one all over the world, So he tells me where it is, and, if you're not from Vancouver, it wouldn't make an impact. But when I heard that it was the British properties, I thought, okay, we're going to a big house, So I drive to his place, about an hour and 10 minutes drive. Get there, the garage door's open. And where these houses are, they get a view of the entire Vancouver and the valley and the whole harbor. It's like a 270-degree view. Big mansion. Half an acre, not a lot. And so, swimming pool and tennis court, nobody there to use it, 3 weeks a year. So I walk through the garage because it happened to be open, to bang on the door there. There's a brand new Mercedes, a brand new Porsche, and a brand new Jag. Well, a few years ago, I'd have been salivating so bad I'd have tripped on myself, But I realize, okay, these are the trappings of an attempt to fill some void. So I go in and immediately, I look around his house, and since I'm into art and I collect art, I realize this guy's got a collection of art here that belongs in a museum.
Is that right?
So I said, do you mind, and nobody lives in this house except for 3 weeks a year roughly, and so I said, do you mind if I have a look around at your art? He says, oh, by all means. So he takes me on a tour. Make a long story short, we get to one room, and it's all different kinds of art, different room, and we get to his Asian art and his calligraphy art. And he says, you know who this artist is? I said, no, I don't really, follow calligraphy that much. And he says, well, this is the most famous calligraphy artist in Asia, and he died in 1984. So you know what happens to the price of a piece of art when the artist is famous and they die? It goes through the roof. And so I reached out, and I felt the paper, and I said, look at the length of the fibers in this paper. I really don't know why I did that. I don't understand papers. And so he says, how would you know that? I said, well, because I am an artist, and I buy, nice French, handmade rag papers and stuff like that. He says, you wait here. He disappears, he goes downstairs, he comes back with this box, about this long, square. And he dusts it off, and he opens it up,